nostalgia is such a powerful part of the human experience. We all have grown up with something that really resonates with us as a child, and even growing into our teens, into our adulthood. And we can't seem to just let that go. And it feels like that we are in that era of gaming at this point, where gaming has become so bloated, so commercial, so corporate, too mainstream. And a lot of us want to go back into the heydays, during a time where gaming was just so important to us and where gaming was the most fun, where you didn't have to worry about the corporate side of things. You just worry about the gaming experience, the worlds that's being introduced to us, and amazing characters and their designs and their aesthetics. And it appears that the more and more we go into this generation, and maybe into the far future, we're going to start seeing more and more developers developing games that they have grown up with to even give us that as nostalgic experience, because some developers who have such great IPs just refuse to release or revive the IPs that we have grown to love. And this is what I want to talk about in this video, because apparently there's a developer out there, and a Chinese developer on top of that, named Ice Staruna. They're working on a Parasite Eve spiritual successor. Now, here's the funny thing, before we even get into any of this, is that I've never played Parasite Eve. I've got cousins, I have relatives, and many other friends who have played the game. During the time Parasite Eve had released, I was focusing on Xenogears. Xenogears had pretty much took over my life at that time growing up. So Parasite Eve is one of those games that I regret missing out on. And now there were so many other people who's been craving for a re-release or a remake or even a sequel, and Square Enix never have given us that. And there's also some politics behind it, stipulations of why that may be the case. For instance, there is some legal issues with that as well, because Parasite Eve is based off of a novel, and it's all about the licensing and the rights, which is why the PSP version was kind of like, I guess you would say, a sequel, but at the same time a reimagined in a way, so they really couldn't continue the plot of the other two games. So now we fast forward into 2025, and we get a release date and also in a trailer of a spiritual successor for Parasite Eve, known as Parasite Mutant. Yes, I know that the name obvious of what they're trying to do and what they're trying to mimic or try to follow. So you can tell that these developers has to be fan of the Parasite Eve IP that was once made by Square Enix themselves. So what is Parasite Mutant? Parasite Mutant is a sci-fi horror RPG set in the distant future, in which you play as a psionic agent named Nova, sent on a mission to an island inhabited with horrifying creatures. The game has an active time chain system, which offers a take on active time battles from the late 90s RPGs with a 3-segment chain system. This involves timing your actions and deciding whether or not to build up your energy for a chain release attack, promising a semi-realistic anime art style with optional retro and CRT filters to recreate late 90s to 2000s vibes, as well as an outfit customization system with hairstyles, colors, outfits, and more. And in New Game Plus mode, Parasite Mutant will be coming to PS5 and PC sometime in 2026. Now, that is awesome. That is something that I want to hear. The fact is that they have CRT filters where you can get that 90s and 2000 nostalgic feel, and this is where we at right now. This is where we headed when it comes to gaming right now, is the return of that nostalgic 90s to 2000 feels that we have been craving for. Now, the fact is that they spent more time and a lot of effort to make the game as customizable as possible. If you just look at the visuals in the game running at a smooth frame rate, and also it has that anime or aesthetic, it looks really good. You can tell that the developers down at Ice Staruna has really put a lot of effort and a lot of time. And the fact is that it's coming out in 2026, that means they must have been working on this for some time. And I'm starting to like what a lot of developers are doing, especially in the East, is where they're not announcing games that's far off from release. It's six months to a year away, which is also awesome, which we can be able to get our hands on this. But the fact is that they allow the player to be able to customize the experience and how they want to play it. That also creates a lot of replayability. And the time chain combat system I thought was very interesting, even back then when Square Enix had released Parasite Eve. This was during a time where Capcom and Resident Evil was really doing this thing, and Square was also known trying to create their own versions of popular IPs from popular genres of that time. I mean, Square had their own fighting game, Tobal Number 1, and then of course now you look at Parasite Eve, which they wanted to have their own horror game but with an RPG twist, which I loved about Square. Square always take specific genres but then add their flair to it and their storytelling, which I thought was awesome. But the time system where you're able to actually have that turn-based mixed with your typical survival horror action in it, it was just a recipe of something that I didn't even think that it would work, but it actually worked. And I'm proud to see that there's developers out there that's really trying to pick up on this mechanic even more. I think we need to still see more time chain combat systems, because I think it's a system that have not been utilized as much, and I would love to see how it will also work not just in a single player setting but also in a setting where you have multiple party members. I would love to see something like that. I think that should also be another type of, I guess you say, normalized gameplay mechanic, you know, for RPGs. I think that would be awesome. But we're not going to just stop there, because as I said before, Parasite Mutant is definitely a spiritual successor to Parasite Eve, but there's also another spiritual successor that completely went under the radar until I actually started looking into Parasite Mutant, and that game is called 45 Parabellum Bloodhound, and this is made by a studio named Sokoban. Now, this trailer has been out since 2024, and I've known nothing about it, and this takes it even way back to that 90s PS1 era as far as visuals are concerned, and it does have that CRT type of visual effects on it. And I'm also looking forward to see when this game come out, because it was announced in 2024. You can even wishlist the game on Steam. Now, as far as the console release is concerned, I have no idea if it's coming to consoles right away, but I do know that it's definitely a game that's coming to Steam. The release date is still to be announced, since it was announced back in 2024. We just want to wait and see as far as the development is concerned and how far has it has gone. And even the developers themselves says they really have no idea right now of when it's going to release. And so I'm hoping that when it comes to Parabellum Bloodhound and when it comes to Parasite Mutant, that these won't be the only spiritual successors to Parasite Eve. I would definitely love to see more from this type of gameplay, from this type of setting, especially the sci-fi setting, with this type of aesthetic to it. I think it would be awesome to see what other developers pull off. And if this game happens to be popular, especially when it comes to Parasite Mutant, hopefully this will put flames under Square Enix, and maybe Square Enix will probably try to work a deal out to try to bring back Parasite Eve, or at least remake Parasite Eve, or put out a Parasite Eve collection for gamers to get used to it and get familiar with the IP, because I know there's a lot of players out there who have never heard of Parasite Eve, never played Parasite Eve, and I think this is the best way to be able to introduce players to Parasite Eve as they decide to either make a remake or make a brand new game or reboot. I think it'll be awesome to see what they do when they pull it off, especially when it comes to Square Enix, where they're trying to reboot the company, which we talked about in a previous video, where they're trying to revive old IPs and take the AA approach, and then from AA then upgrade them if they do well into a AAA title. So I would love to see what they do with that, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Parasite Mutant and its gameplays, its visual effects, its characters, and the overall design, and the fact is that it's fully customizable when it comes to customizing Nova herself? I can't wait to see what customization options are out there, you know, for Nova, as far as her clothing, her hairstyle, and I can't wait to see how the gameplay at the end of the day is all going to play out and how well it's going to mesh together. And also, I have my eyes on 45 Parabellum Bloodhound as well, and I want to hear your thoughts. Have you even heard of that game as well, or is this your first time as well as myself hearing about this game? So definitely get your thoughts in the comment section below. If you liked the video, definitely let me know in the comment sections. And if you played Parasite Eve, let me know what you thought about Parasite Eve, especially the first 2 games, or just the series in general. So that pretty much wraps up this video. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe button, and notification for more gaming content here on this channel. This is MugenLord, signing off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.